Hello, my adventure and travel photographers. My name is Alexandra and I run a bucket list adventure and photography blog called The Bucket List Mermaid. And yes, I do it all as a mermaid, as you will soon see in this video. Now, I've gotten the chance to go to some incredible beaches on this earth, however, none quite compare to the miraculous and the magical pink beaches. However, if you've ever been to a pink beach, you'd know that it kind of looks like white sand from far away, and you do have to do just a hint of editing if you do want your photos to pop. Now, this can actually be a little tricky, as I have learned, especially if there's other people in the photo and your skin has red undertones. Now, I am super pale, and I do have some red undertones, so I ran into a whole heap of problems when I went to go start editing my pink sand beach photos. This led me to even go to YouTube and research and try to find a way to edit this, and I really didn't find a good way to do it, so I kind of had to just go through trial and error and just kind of do it on my own and figure it out on my own. Now, as hard as this was, I am kind of glad for it because it did force me to really get to know Lightroom and to really get to know how to edit these photos professionally. Now, because there was not a lot of resources out there, that is why I am creating this video. I am going to be going through step by step how I would edit a pink sand beach photo. I'll add a mermaid shot just to make it fun, and I'll show you my thought process with how I am editing these, and they can look as incredible as when you were there. Before we get started, I do have to say that sometimes I do see these over-edited, and even I might perhaps edit them just a little bit too much just to make the pinks pop. But however, I think that it is really up to you as the photographer and the artist to pick the editing style and how much you want to bring out those pinks and how much you want to edit it. That is really up to you. So just take this as a guide. You can always pull it down even more to make it more natural, or bump it up a little bit more to make it even more magical. Okay, so the first step is to obviously go to a pink sand beach and take some magical photos. And honestly, that's kind of the easy part and the fun part. But now that you are back home, let's get started with editing. Now, I personally use Lightroom. A lot of photographers use Lightroom, so I'm going to be doing this demonstration in Lightroom. However, based on the program that you're using, everything's gonna be basically the same. Now, the challenges of editing these pink sand beach photos, the pink is subtle. The key here is to find your style, make the pinks pop without going overboard. Now, the other issue here is that if you are in the photo, which I think you should be because, you know, you're a beautiful traveler and you should document that you were there too. But depending on your skin tone, if you make the pinks pop, you're also going to bring out the pinks in your skin. So let's talk about how we turn this pink sand peach into the pure cotton candy dreams without turning yourself into a sunburned Oompa Loompa in the process. So let's start with the basics before we dive into all those magical color tweaks. Now, when I'm first starting out, I will look at the histogram on the right and just make sure that everything is evenly lit, nothing's weirdly underexposed or overexposed, and maybe even bring it up just slightly just to make the details shine. Next, contrast, I just bump it up a little just to give the image more dimension, and then I'll go to the highlights and shadows. I'll maybe pull down the highlights just to maybe reclaim some of the details in the sky, and I'll lift the shadows to reveal all of those lovely beachy textures. So next we are going to be going to the HSL panel, which is the Hue, Saturation, and Luminance panel, and this is going to be your pink beach BFF. Now, most of the pink sand will live in the red and the pink slider, so you can just start to experiment and obviously make sure that you're doing it in your own style, but you can slide the pinks maybe towards the reds if they're too purple, or towards the orange if they look too magenta. And then with that saturation, you're going to want to boost both the pinks and the reds up slightly, but again, not so much that it looks radioactive. Use your imagination here. Do whatever you feel comfortable with. And then the luminance, increasing luminance brightens the pink sand and gives it that soft, airy glow. If this isn't working, it just means that it's not picking up enough of that color in order to boost the saturation. So there is another way that you can do this that I will be showing you. But staying in this area, I would also maybe think of adjusting the blues and aquas as well, just because the turquoise water is a really cool contrast with that blush pink. So maybe nudge that aqua towards the teal for those tropical water vibes, maybe dial up the saturation just a little bit to make that sea pop, and then maybe increase the luminance just slightly just to make that water shimmer. Personally, I like my skies to be more blue and the ocean to be more turquoise, so that's just an editing little quirk that I have personally, maybe bumping up the greens a little bit if you do have those in the photo. Now, if this really isn't working or you want more editing, that is when you can go to the brush or the masking tool. I am not sure if this is available in all of the editing programs. However, Lightroom, love it. Can't recommend it enough. So I'm going to go into the mask section, and I am basically going to go over with the brush, and I'm going to target all of that sand. So I'm going to draw over all of the sand in the picture, and then once I am satisfied that I have gotten all the sand, then I might play with some exposures, some contrast, just to like boost it a little bit, but the real magic is going to lie in the color. So what I'm going to do is there's a thing called tint and then hue right here, and saturation, but I'm going to focus more on the tint and the hue, and I'm going to play with both of those sliders until I am satisfied with the color of the pink. Now, this does mean that you can kind of pick which pink you want, but again, just do whatever fits your style and whatever level of editing you are comfortable with. Now, the reason that I like this method better than the HSL method is because my skin tone stays intact. However, if you are starting to turn into a lobster, here's how to fix it. So go back into that mask tool, and then you're going to lower the reds and oranges if needed. And this honestly takes just a lot of nitpicking, just moving the sliders just a little bit. It also doesn't help that I'm kind of sunburnt in this photo. So hopefully you applied sunscreen, or maybe you have a different skin tone. However, I think that this is a good picture to kind of demonstrate how you would do this. Maybe I'll try to bring the saturation down a little bit. It really is just kind of using all the tools that you have to boost up the pinks in the sand and boost down the pinks in your skin. And just some bonus tweaks for a magic touch. You can change the white balance. Like, things are starting to look too cool, you could warm it up a smidge just for that dreamy island vibe. You can also use the tone curve and add like a subtle S-curve to boost the contrast without flattening the image. I personally didn't do it here because I didn't think that it needed it, but you could do that if you wanted to. Also, another thing that I do like to do to some of my photos, just to give it like that little oomph, is if you go back to that hue, saturation, and luminance panel, you do have this option right below called color grading. And basically in this highlight section, you could add just a little bit of pink, as I said, just a little bit, just to make it feel just a little bit more ethereal. And then just as a general rule, just kind of like, again, my editing quirk is on these shadows, I like to go on the opposite side of the color wheel. So the shadows are actually going to be more in this green region, while the highlights are going to be in the pink. So kind of just balancing out the photo, but just making it just giving it a little extra oomph if you feel like it. And then my last tip is to save what you've done as a preset, and then you can just go through all of your pink beach photos. You can just apply the preset, do some tweaks if needed, because it's going to be a photo by photo basis, but this is going to save you so much time, and it's also going to make all your photos look relatively similar and consistent. So I want to hear your thoughts. Did you have a better editing process for editing pink sand beaches? Did you like this editing process? And I also want to see your photos. I'm like the biggest adventure and photography cheerleader out there, and I am here just to cheer you on for every step of the way. So if you do have your pink sand photos and you're willing to share, I do have a Facebook group called Shutterbugs Gone Wild, and you can go ahead and share it in there, and then I will give it so much love and appreciation. I want to see your hard work. This is a tricky editing situation, and I want to cheer on your hard work. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any other things that you would like to see edited, I love this stuff, so feel free to comment, DM me, go to my website, The Bucket List Mermaid, so we can talk more photography and adventures. Until next time, stay adventurous and happy photographing.